Our next guest says Nigeria's equities markets will close this year in positive territory based on the level of participation of domestic to foreign investors. We're joining us for a focus on the stock market this year is Ahmed Banu. He's the Chief Operating Officer at Parthian Securities. Thank you, Ahmed, for taking the time out to join us today. Quite a positive and bullish outlook you have for the stock market this year. Talk to us about what are those key factors, fundamentals that you expect to play out at the market this year?
Okay, thank you very much, Esther. For us, we believe that the most important factor that will drive the performance of the equity markets, like we've seen over the last 3 years, is the interest rate levels in Nigeria. What we've noticed is that there's currently like a negative correlation between the level of interest rates and the performance of the Nigerian equity market. So if you had seen in 2019 when the interest rates levels were high, we had a negative performance in the Nigerian equity market. However, in 2020 and some level in 2022, when interest rate levels were low, we had positive performance. So we believe, for one, interest rates will be very significant in 2022, like we've seen in 2021 and 2020. But if you look at the interest rate for us, one key driver of that interest rate has to be the current budget deficit that we have in the country that was passed by the federal government. And also, considering the fact that this year is a pre-election year, the liquidity levels in the markets will definitely be high. So those two factors for us are like the two most important factors that we believe might drive interest rate levels. So whatever happens to those factors will drive interest rates and also drive the performance of the Nigerian equity market.
Now, one key highlight that we saw, one key highlight of the market last year was an increase in participation by domestic investors, because obviously we did see exit of foreign investors, and domestic investors appear to have been able to hold up the market. Do you see increased participation this year, and do you see this perhaps becoming the norm going forward?
So just to respond, we believe that's already the norm. Foreign investors left in 2018 and never came back, interestingly. So we've seen, as at 2018, the participation of foreign investors compared to domestic investors had been 51% compared to 49%. However, as at November 2021, you would see foreign investors' participation as at November to be 23%, compared to 77% of the domestic investors. So what you've seen is that over the years, foreign investors' participation has significantly dwindled. So currently in Nigeria, in the Nigerian equity market, domestic investors are dominating. We expect that to continue because basically there are so many factors that you need to consider. The FX controls that are also currently in place, and the fact that there's a lot of volatility in terms of our FX exchange rate in Nigeria. So if you're a foreign investor, would you want to be in Nigeria? The answer to the answer to that is no, depending on how the conditions change. So yes, we expect that the domestic investors will continue to dominate going forward and in 2022.
Now, at the beginning of every year, and of course, perhaps on a quarterly basis, we do see portfolio managers rebalancing their portfolios, going light or heavy on, certain stocks, etc. What does a typical portfolio manager's portfolio look like at this time in terms of sectors that they're heavy on, fundamentals that they are keeping an eye on, etc.?
So if you talk about domestic investors, you would realize that a significant portion of the domestic investors comprise of the pension funds and the asset managers. And based on experience, you realize that the pension funds and asset managers love, I'll use that keyword, love. They love the big and large cap stocks. So stocks like MTN, Dangote Cement, Dangote Cement, Airtel. You see the likes of Zenith, you see the likes of Nestle. So they like the blue chip stock, and it's quite understandable, considering the fact that these are the stocks that give you some certain level of comfort. However, have they been the ones giving you the best returns in the market? The answer to that for me is no, because if you look at last year, the best 10 performing stocks in the market last year were United Capital, and Vitafoam, PLC, but some PFAs and asset management firms are still a bit not necessarily nervous, but not too comfortable with those names. So we still see a lot of these asset managers and portfolio managers, and a lot of these portfolio managers concentrating like in the top 15 stocks on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So from all the way up from Dangote Cement all the way to ETI. So we believe if you look at these portfolios, this is where you see majority of the concentration among these 15 stocks.
All right. Well, what are your expectations for IPOs this year at the market? We've heard talk about the Dangote refineries, the NNPC. I know that the SEC is reviewing the 10-year capital market master plan to review the rules to adjust to the changing dynamics of the market. But what do you see happening in the course of the year?
So in terms of IPOs, currently we've seen Boa Foods list. So Boa Foods listed on 5th of January. We should see a lot of listings, like you mentioned. NMPC might come on board. We might also see significant fintechs. Interestingly, some fintechs might actually come on board to this year. I don't want to mention names, but you should see that happening towards the end of the year, because the NGX is currently having discussions with those fintechs in terms of getting listed on the exchange. So for us, it's around that. So NNPC might actually come on board, because I know there's also discussions around that to also get them listed too.